Welcome to Sex Ed with DB. I'm your host, DB. Let's get into it. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Sex Ed with DB. And this week is a fantastic question from a listener. And it's all about getting your libido back after a dry spell. And the reason why we are covering this question is because we cover a little bit of this in this past week's episode when we covered how Stella got her groove back for Rom-Com Vom. And if you haven't listened to that episode, highly recommend. We have the amazing Dr. Candace Nicole Hargens on this week. And we talk, all about age gaps in the 90s and essentially Stella being this high-powered businesswoman who, classically has to choose her career or love. And we learn some surprises about that film, about how it defies some of those stereotypes and how it perpetuates them. But essentially, this question stems from, after you go through a divorce or after you go through a breakup or something's happening where you get fired or, all of these things can happen where we need to quote unquote get our grooves back. And it's hard to figure out why exactly that's happening. And then once you're in it, you might feel this pressure of like, oh, like I really want to have sex or I really want to be horny or in the mood, but like nothing I'm doing is working, or I don't want to try those things because then it'll, I'll have to admit that I have an issue. And so we're going to cover all of that today of like why dry spells happen, and what you could potentially do to help. And, this, you really have to listen to your body, right? Like if you are somebody who needs a lot of effort and a lot of change in order for you to get out of your dry spell, you know that about yourself, and that's okay. And there are different techniques and kind of frameworks that we're going to be going over that hopefully can help you. But I just want to say, like, you are not alone. This is not the end of the world. You have a very fulfilling life otherwise. And so I think just generally at least for me, it feels like in our society, with our media and with our conversations with our friends, there's a lot of pressure to compare ourselves and our libidos to other people. And I just want to let you know, life is long. You will figure this out. And so here we go. What happens during a dry spell? Like why do dry spells happen? Dry spells, or periods of reduced or no sexual activity, can happen for a variety of reasons, and most of which are completely normal. Again, you are not alone. You are not a freak. This is typical for a lot of people. But here's a breakdown of some common causes. So stress and mental health, right? Like when we're stressed, we really, like from work, finances, relationships, it can really, really decrease your energy, and it no brainer, right? Like could make you not be in the mood. And anxiety or depression, right? Like mental health challenges can often lead to this reduced interest in sex. And I don't feel like we talk about this enough. Email me at sexedwithdb@gmail.com if you're interested in going over this. But medications like antidepressants have side effects that can include decreasing your libido. And just this is anecdotal, but I think that, I've had a lot of friends who have been on antidepressants and just said like, oh yeah, I'm just never, ever in the mood. Like it's really hard for me to just naturally feel like I'm in the mood. Or even we know Dr. Emily Nagoski, she talks about responsive desire, where maybe you have to like listen to audio erotica or get a massage or, use a vibrator in order to like respond to have your body respond to get in the mood. But some folks who are on antidepressants are just like, nope, nothing is really clicking for me. So like if this is you, / if you have felt interested in this topic, write in and maybe we can do an entire episode on this. Another reason why, your libido could be reduced is because of hormonal changes, right? So if you have a uterus, there's the menstrual cycle where hormones fluctuate throughout the month, naturally influencing your libido. Sometimes it increases when you're ovulating, sometimes it decreases. But if you're on, birth control, hormonal birth control, then that means that your body could be reacting differently to different hormones. There's postpartum and breastfeeding, right? Like hormonal shifts after childbirth, along with exhaustion. Body image concerns can absolutely lead to decreased desire. There's menopause or andropause. So lower estrogen or testosterone levels can affect sexual drive and arousal. There's also your physical health, right? Like if you are not getting enough sleep and you're fatigued or you're physically exhausted, that leaves really little energy for sexual activity. If you are a sufferer from chronic pain or illness, right? Like if you have diabetes or heart disease or, a torn ACL that like keeps tearing, like that can make sex feel less appealing when you are in physical pain. We kind of mentioned this before, but just to reiterate, medications, right? Like birth control, antihistamines, antidepressants may dampen your libido. Relationship factors. So if you feel an emotional disconnect with your partner or you feel boredom or routine, right? Like in a long term relationship, we've talked about this in our episode with Dr. Lexx Brown James, where we talk about, okay, how do we maintain intimacy in long term relationships? Theoretically, we marry people in our 20s, 30s, 40s, and then we're with them in our monogamous society for decades. And so we need to figure out like how can we continue excitement in the bedroom? And sometimes there's a lack of intimacy or unresolved conflict or communication issues. And yeah, I just feel like even if everything's kind of fine and dandy and things are going well, it can feel really hard to get ourselves to feel like, oh, I'm excited to do this new thing with my partner. In fact, that's why this season on Sex Ed with DB, we recently started partnering with this great company called Arya, Arya. You might have heard their ads in other episodes, but essentially they're a company that helps couples break the routine. And they have a person who's a concierge who you can like actually ask questions to, and they give you scenes that like spice things up for you so you don't have to be like the one to quote unquote spice up your own bedroom life. And they send you like a box of sex toys that are in collaboration with the scene that you're covering. And so yeah, check them out. Their link is in our Instagram bio. We can also put it in this episode description. But having another company or person like do things for your relationship can take the burden and the stress off of that. And so that's why, yeah, I feel like people write into us all the time, like, how do we help? How do I help myself in my relationship? And I personally think Aria, I've used it myself, is a great option. So check that out if that sounds like you. Also, life transitions, moving along to other things that can impact our libido, right? Like if we're moving or we change jobs or, the economy is shit or our fucking president, right? Like if you lose a loved one, other major shifts can really disrupt normal routines, including sex. And that includes, figuring out what our body image and self confidence is feeling like, right? Like if we're feeling insecure or dissatisfied with our bodies, it can make it harder to relax and feel sexual. Another big one is parenthood, right? Like if you're a new parent, it might sound absolutely absurd to you to feel like you need to be able to get in the mood if you're sleep deprived and you have a demanding schedule and you don't really have privacy and you have, kids who are coming in all the time if they're older, like if they're, 5, 6, 7 and they're wanting to sleep in your bed and like all of these things, right? So that can definitely lead to dry spells for parents. Also trauma, right? Like negative past experiences, past trauma such as abuse or toxic relationships may really impact your ability to feel safe and actually desire sex. Um, and then the last one here is lack of desire, right? Like just in general, it is natural for libido to fluctuate throughout your life, just like appetite or energy, and your interest in sex may ebb and flow based on what's happening physically, emotionally, and mentally. Um, and yeah, they are a part of life. They could be. And, they might not necessarily be a problem, but if you're kind of feeling like, okay, but this is distressing or this is prolonged and, I want to explore like what the root cause of this is. The first thing that I'll say is like, if you have a partner, talking about this with your partner, and if you have a therapist or if you want to get a therapist, talking about it with your therapist, because I think that overall, there are things that I'm going to be talking about on the latter half right now of this episode of what are ways that you can increase your libido after a dry spell. And at the same time, like there is reason to believe that like a lot of this can be mental, right? Like a lot of this can be, oh, I'm just not communicating well with my partner and I'm not able to tell them exactly what I want or exactly what I need. Or, oh, actually, this is related to something that I experienced last year when I lost this loved one, or, the sexual trauma. Like there definitely is physical stuff that we discussed, but I think that, yeah, being able to talk openly about libido with a partner, with a friend, with a therapist can really be helpful. Okay, all that being said, let's go over how to increase your libido after a dry spell and how to get it back, just like Stella, how Stella got her groove back. Spoiler alert, it has to do with young 20-something Tay Diggs in Jamaica. Okay, number one, it's important for you to personally explore what you like through masturbation. So, when we masturbate, we know what works for us. We know what feels good, what turns us on, what leads to orgasm, if that's the goal for you. And this confidence and understanding your own pleasure is a really great starting point, whether you're solo or with a partner. So, masturbate and like less focus on kind of like partnered sex can feel like, okay, this is a way that I can really get in tune with my body and really, really just figure out what do I like and what feels good for me. Number two, it is really, really important to take the pressure off of yourself and off of intercourse, because intercourse isn't the be all end all of sex. You can really enjoy intimacy and pleasure with your partner in countless other ways, like mutual masturbation, massage, oral sex. So, focusing on pleasure and connection rather than an outcome can really change our mental framework around libido. Sex toys, sex toys, sex toys, sex toys. Bringing a sex toy into the bedroom can really show your partner what feels good for you and invite them into your pleasure. Also, lube. I have talked about lube so many times on this podcast. If this is your first time hearing me talk about it, good for you, because you somehow have escaped. Lube can help you reduce friction, enhance sensation, and make the experience smoother and more pleasurable. If you're somebody who never ever uses lube and you're like, oh, sex just like doesn't really feel good. It's just like not, I don't use lube. I don't really need it, but I don't, I just don't really look forward to sex. Please try lube. I highly recommend Uberlube personally, because we've been working with them for years. It's pretty much the only lube that I use. And it really can genuinely change your sexual experience and surprise you. So yeah, highly, highly recommend that. And also incorporating just general movement is another great way to increase those endorphins. Exercise, body movement, right, increases blood flow and genuinely does boost your mood, which can help restore sex drive. And so I know, at least for me, every time before I'm about to exercise, genuinely, I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like, I'm not in the mood. I don't feel like it. And then without fail, every single time afterwards, I'm like, I'm really glad that I did that. That felt really good. So focusing on really moving your body in any way that feels good for you, even if it's just a walk, or even if you're, working and you buy one of those little walking treadmills or whatever, or you just do like 20 jumping jacks, like that can, like, hormones are changing in our bodies, chemicals are being released to put us in a better mood. And making a routine out of exercise can genuinely really help with libido. Another way that we can kind of focus in on improving our sex drive after a dry spell is really focusing on that emotional connection with our partner. So sometimes it's just tied to how emotionally connected that you feel when it comes to quality time with your partner. Are you laughing together? Are you feeling close? Are you feeling relaxed? Like, can you cook together? Can you take a walk? Can you cuddle? Can you have a conversation about your day? Like, is there a way for you to feel that emotional connection with them? Another way to figure out how to increase your libido is like genuinely looking around the room and seeing like, what is the vibe that you have set up? Is it like oh, like super bright overhead lights, or like your sheets haven't been clean in a few weeks. Like, put a little bit of effort into figuring out what your atmosphere looks like and how to make it more sensually yours. So, can you dim the lighting? Can you put on some music? Can you light some candles? Can you figure out how to get in like a really soft, sweet outfit? Do you have like all the accoutrement by your bed? Do you have like your lube and your condoms and your sex toys and your water, like everything that you need to feel like you can really get in that space? And the final thing, we already went over this a few times, but communicate, communicate, communicate. Talk to your partner about how you're feeling, because being honest about your libido changes can really reduce misunderstandings and create this shared space for solutions. And again, like, you are not alone. Many, many people experience this. My hope for you is that if you have experienced this or do experience this, that one of these tools is helpful for you. And I do think that, at least in my head, I'm kind of like, oh, well, I don't want to have to put in any effort. I just want naturally for me to feel like I'm in the mood. But like, life is not like that sometimes. And our bodies can be really weird and really different. And we're all unique. And so the more like we're willing to put in a little bit of intentional effort, and really like, take that pressure off of ourselves, try what we can, do that little exercise, chat with our partner, like, I promise you will start to see little changes. And with that, I will leave you. I am so, yeah, happy to talk to you about libido and about being in the mood. I'm so excited about, yeah, these episodes that we're doing for Rom-Com Vom. I hope that you really like them and that you have been listening along. If you do want to suggest a rom-com for us to go over, feel free to leave a comment on this Spotify episode and let me know which one that you're wanting to do, or leave it in a review on Apple Podcasts, in your review, and I read all of them, I promise. And yeah, that's all for now. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Love you all. Bye. Our creator, host, and executive producer is me, Danielle Bezalel, aka DB. Our producer is Sadie Leegee. Our communications lead is Catherine Cohen. Our marketing coordinator is Alex Bateman. Our music theme is by Hook Sounds. Thanks so much to our featured guests, partners, and listeners. If you have a rom-com you remember from growing up and want us to cover it on Rom-Com Vom, submit it to us by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and leaving a comment on Spotify. Want to partner with us? Email us at sexedwithdb@gmail.com. For more sex ed content, follow us on Instagram @sexedwithdbpodcast. See you next time.